Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Doug Las Vegas Bets UFC Betting Show. Hopefully the audio is working. My microphone has been very annoying to start my attempt at recording here. This week we're back in the Apex, headlined by former welterweight champ Belal Muhammad, taking on up-and-coming finisher Gabriel Bonfim in a fun main event. A couple other fun fights scattered throughout this card. As always, I'm going over my pick for each and every one, and this week I've already got my underdog best bet, my favorite prop play, and my 3-leg parlay locked in, so I'm going to be telling you guys about each one of those throughout the card. Without further ado, let's get into these fights. We'll start things off with the main event as Belal Muhammad takes on Gabriel Bonfim in quite a drop in competition for the former champ here. Obviously, he went on with an incredible win streak. He was an underdog in most of those fights. A lot of bettors are very loyal to Belal Muhammad because of this streak. It was really impressive, and a lot of the wins have aged well too. The Sean Brady win has aged tremendously. He evolved into a top 5 guy. It wasn't just like Belal went in and beat some guy who turned out didn't live up to the hype. No, Brady was as good as we thought. It just turned out Belal was better. Then he went in there and took the belt from Leon Edwards, who was really high up there on the pound-for-pound list for a while. It was a great run. Just unfortunately ran into a much younger guy in Jack Della Maddalena, who gave him trouble stylistically, was able to, avoid getting trapped and taken down, didn't succumb to the pressure, and just kept tagging him over the course of 5 rounds. Then fought another much younger, very talented, smart fighter in Ian Gary and lost the decision over 3 rounds there just last November. So he is coming off 2 losses here, but this is to the next generation, just kind of passing him as he's 37 years old now. So we have, unfortunately, very likely seen the best of Belal Muhammad. On the other side, we got Gabriel Bonfim coming in here. We're starting to see the best of him. He came in with a lot of hype, just kind of running through guys, had a couple of quick submissions in the first minute against Munir Laziz and Trevin Giles. And then it all came to a screeching halt in the Nicholas Dalby fight as he got off to a strong start, kept trying hard to finish him. But we know Nicholas Dalby's a tough veteran. He's not going to just get submitted. If you gas your arms out going for the darts and stuff, he's going to stay there and he's going to put the pressure on like he did. And he gashed as a huge underdog there, pulled the massive upset. But we have definitely seen a lot of evolution from Bonfim since then. He went 3 rounds the next fight against Ange Losa, and I actually thought that was a pretty good look. Losa's not the highest caliber guy, but he showed the improvements that he needed to. He didn't rush against a guy who's difficult to finish in Losa. He went all 3 rounds. He handled the grappling of him. He showed his striking off a little bit more, wasn't rushing to get it to the ground himself. His defensive grappling was on display there. Losa couldn't keep him down at all. Then the next fight against Chaos Williams, obviously, we know how dangerous Chaos Williams is. He avoids the threat early, locks up a nasty Darce choke, and put him to sleep at the end of the second round, showing he's still got the ability to lock up those quick submissions in an instant if you play with him on the ground like Chaos did. And the defensive striking was pretty good there. The Stephen Thompson win wasn't a great look. A lot of people disagree with the decision, and it's easy to see why. I started strong, but Thompson ended the fight much better, hurt him with head kicks and stuff. Although Thompson's a very tricky matchup, it's not a great look not being able to get the grappling going later, but I do think that just shows, Bonfim doesn't have the greatest gas tank. He's got to pace it out. We've seen it with, it almost feels goofy comparing him to a guy like Hamzat, but we've seen it with Hamzat. It's a lot harder to keep dominantly wrestling through a couple rounds when it takes so much energy for you to get the guys down. But striking with Stephen Thompson is going to be a lot harder than it is with most guys, so it was a tough look for his or it was tough for him to look good there. Once it was tough for him to get it on the ground, still got the win, I guess. And then coming off his last fight, the main event against Brandy Brown, where he caught him with a really good clinch knee, that was kind of showing off, okay, his striking isn't that bad because he got outstruck by Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson's a fantastic striker. He can still go out there and take out lower level guys. He's got danger not just on the ground but in the clinch. I thought it was a pretty good look. It maybe hasn't aged well. Randy Brown had a pretty bad performance after, but Randy Brown's a solid veteran who's always, he's going to show up for some. He's going to not show up for others. I thought it was a good win for Bonfim. Still very young, and now he's getting pushed back up to the upper echelon pretty quickly after the loss to Dalby. They didn't really play with him and make him build himself back up for too long, which I think is good. I think he's a very talented guy, very dangerous. As far as my pick for this one, I'm going with the slight dog in the much younger Bonfim. The 5 rounds makes me hesitate on it a lot because I do think that favors Belal a lot. It's tough to see Bonfim keeping up with the pace of Belal in rounds 4 and 5 because if he's got anything, it's pace. Belal is going to keep throwing those Canelo hands in your face all day. He's going to keep being able to mix in the wrestling. That being said, I think Bonfim is the much more dangerous guy. I think if Belal tries the wrestling early, it's going to be real risky sticking your head in there every time. We haven't seen him get the submission every fight. Of course, he couldn't submit Stephen Thompson, who has historically been very difficult to submit. But he gets those guillotines quick. He locks up those Darce chokes quick. It doesn't matter if you're Belal, who has tremendous submission defenses, trained with some of the best grapplers in the world, has never shown a weakness there. That can always happen, especially with Belal getting older and Bonfim just getting better. And then as far as the striking, at least for the early few rounds, I think Bonfim can, if not keep it competitive, I think he wins it. I think he can land the bigger shots. He's pretty good technically, has a good hard low kick. I think he's going to kick Belal Muhammad's lead leg. Belal's really heavy on that lead leg a lot early. So if he can do damage on that lead leg early, he can probably stifle the pressure of Belal, and that'll negate the cardio advantage, at least for the later rounds. It'll make it harder for Belal to just walk forward if his leg is compromised, as Joe Rogan likes to say. So I think Bonfim has multiple paths to victory. I love that he's 9 years younger. He's got the momentum coming with 4 wins. Muhammad coming off 2 losses to other younger guys. So yeah, give me Gabriel Bonfim as the slight underdog here, and I'm going to make him the underdog best bet of the week. Next, we got an interesting booking in the co-main as the number 4 ranked Brendan Allen, coming off a win over Reinier de Ritter in a main event, takes on unranked Edmen Shahbazyan, who is coming off 3 straight wins, although it's against Dylan Budka, Andre Petrosky, and Andre Muniz, with a loss to Gerald Mearshart coming before that. So the difference in competition that these guys have been facing is insane to start off with. I'll start with Brendan Allen. He's a great grappler. He didn't get off to the best start against Reinier de Ritter, who is also a tremendous grappler, a big grappler, which is going to give a lot of people stylistic problems. But we've seen Brendan Allen develop this well-rounded game, grappling being his main base. Had success in the early rounds against Anthony Hernandez, who's a fantastic grappler and a very strong defensive grappler in Nasruddin Imavov. Also shown off a lot of evolution to his striking. Had a full-blown striking match with Marvin Vettori, which was a really fun fight that he got the win in. And prior to that, he struck a little in the Imavov fight late, landed that nice knee that got the funny picture out of it, but did end up losing that fight mainly due to the striking. Although holding your own against Imavov on the feet is impressive. We know he's one of the best strikers in the division, if not in the entire UFC. Over to Shahbazyan, yeah, he's got 2 first-round knockouts in his last 3. Knocked out Andre Muniz's last fight, got the knockout over Dylan Budka, and a decision over Andre Petrosky, where his cardio looked pretty good. He's always had a couple issues: questionable cardio and questionable grappling defense. When guys get on top of him, it tends to get ugly. Imavov elbowed his face through the canvas. Jack Hermanson almost got him out of there in the 3rd round, and Jack Hermanson doesn't really finish anybody. He came real close to getting Edmen Shahbazyan out of there. So yeah, when you're on top of him, his defense isn't great. Initial takedown defense is It's pretty strong early, but that's also not against top level grapplers like Brendan Allen. So, in case you couldn't figure out where I'm going with this one, I'm taking Brendan Allen. I do think there's a chance Edmen catches him early because Brendan Allen's not the most durable and Shahbazyan's a pretty hard hitter, but you can't ignore the level of competition. I think this price is short when you consider the jump. And as much as Allen might be on the disadvantage on the feet, there might be that chance he gets caught early in the first round. Edmen's at a huge disadvantage on the ground. He's got good takedown defense, but Allen has had success early against top level grapplers. Like getting the back of Nasruddin Imavov early, and Imavov, we saw him, like I said, he elbowed Shahbazyan's face through the canvas. So, MMA math doesn't always work out, but I think it just shows the levels difference on the ground between these guys. So yeah, give me Brendan Allen in this one. I actually think he's going to get a late finish. I took him by late KO on verdict. I think the XP multiplier is crazy there. So yeah, make my pick him by third round TKO. But as for betting, I took his money line straight and put that in the parlay of the week. It's the last leg, but it's the first leg. I give it to you in reverse order. So yeah, give me Brendan Allen in this one. Give him to me inside the distance and make his money line one of the legs in my parlay of the week. Next, we got another kind of weird booking here at lightweight as the number 14 ranked streaking Farès Ziam gets another prospect who's on a less impressive streak in Tom Nolan. Not to downplay Tom Nolan's streak, he's won 4 straight since the debut loss to Nicholas Mota. But yeah, I was kind of confused by this one. A lot of people have been calling for a big fight for Farès Ziam, and I'm sure if he wins this, he'll get it. But I feel like after that performance against Nazim Sadikov, took on another dangerous prospect there, and another, more veteran guy in Mike Davis before that, another veteran before that, Matt Frevola. I feel like he's earned another ranked guy at least. No, not to disrespect Tom Nolan, but just weird booking here. Anyways, talking about Ziam, this is a guy who's really rounded out his skill set since the early days. There were concerns about his grappling, especially after the Terrence McKinney fight, where McKinney got on top and choked him out early. But now he is defensively grappled against strong wrestlers like Matt Frevola, and even used it offensively against Mike Davis and Nazim Sadikov, who aren't slouches on the ground to say the least. And he's still a sharp, long striker at 6'1", uses the size well. And he's starting to get the knockouts here. Got that nasty knee against Matt Frevola, landed a big elbow against Nazim Sadikov. So finding the finishing sense, if you will, as he enters the veteran stage of his career. Tom Nolan, he's rounded out his game a little too, showing off some wrestling since the debut loss to Nick Mota, where maybe some defensive concerns were brought up that haven't fully gone away, as he was dropped in the next fight against Victor Martinez as well. Went all 3 rounds with Alex Reyes. Then he started mixing in the grappling more against Vyacheslav Borshev, which was a good sign. I thought he looked for the clear path to victory. It would have been easy for him to just go out there and keep being the striker that he was against a dangerous striker in Vyacheslav, but identified a part of his game that could grow, and he used it to show, evolution and find that he has a high enough fight IQ is what I was looking for there. And then obviously the improvements on the ground paid off again with a first round submission in his next fight against Charlie Campbell after the striking wasn't going great for him. He wound up jumping on the back and grabbed the neck, and another good performance that showed that he's grown since that debut, I think, for sure. Overall, though, my thoughts on this comes down to Ziam is a prospect that is really starting to put it together against these higher level guys, and Tom Nolan's like just starting to figure it out. He's a ways away from that ranked competition. I think he's had a couple good performances, but he's not that far gone from going to decision with Alex Reyes. Vyacheslav Borshev is a guy we've seen a lot of people handle on the ground. It's impressive that he showed he can use the grappling. It's an evolution to his game. It shows he's growing, but it's not the most impressive thing. And the Charlie Campbell win was his most impressive by far to me. But we've seen Ziam beating guys like that. It wasn't as impressive to me as Ziam completely shutting out Nazim Sadikov in his last fight. So I like Ziam here. I understand why he's a big favorite, and he is already going to be the second leg in my parlay of the week here. So far that is Brendan Allen and Farès Ziam. I think he gets it done by decision here, as he's not necessarily the most dangerous finisher, and we have seen Nolan work on the defense and chin issues, excuse me. But I do expect Ziam to be able to separate himself enough here to get a clear decision win. Late replacement here, and stop me if you've heard me say this before today, but it's a bit of a weird booking. Got the veteran, former ranked featherweight who's taken on a lot of tough challenges, including John Silva, Josh Emmett, Dan Ige, taking on the 21-year-old short notice replacement Santiago Luna, who is just 2-0 in the UFC. I'll start by talking about Bryce Mitchell, obviously a very strong wrestler. Like I said, he's moved down from featherweight now to bantamweight, coming off that successful bantamweight debut against Said Nurmagomedov, where he survived a couple submission scares, but was able to use the top control to get the decision. It was a pretty good win. You know, we always know that Said Nurmagomedov is going to be a very difficult guy to take the first round off of. He's always going to threaten those submissions, and Bryce was able to avoid that, get his grappling going, and get the W there. The concerns that showed themselves at 45 about his physicality definitely are still looming. A lot of people point to the Silva fight and the Josh Emmett fight. I point to the Dan Ige fight more, which was a win for Bryce Mitchell, but that was a really close fight when he had a clear grappling advantage in that one, but Ige was just able to get up and still force damage. And it wasn't like Bryce Mitchell was undersized there. A lot of times you can say, oh, the John Silva fight made him move down to 135. He was just clearly undersized there. Dan Ige is now also moving down to 135. So these guys were comparable in size. Dan Ige is a fringe on the rankings guy, and Dan Ige put some serious damage on him, arguably won that fight. I had a Bryce Mitchell by decision ticket, so I'm a little biased, but I do think there is a real argument that the damage Dan Ige did won him that fight. And I do think it's possible that Santiago Luna can do something similar, just replicate a damage-based decision, and has the finishing upside. So going over to Santiago Luna with that, we saw him get a first-round knockout in his debut against Quang Lee, which was a fun fight at Noche. He's so coming in so young. It's hard to criticize a performance where he just knocks out a solid veteran guy, a well-rounded guy in Quang Lee. We've seen him get a couple wins in the UFC octagon. And then the performance after that against Angel Pacheco, I thought was impressive too. Pacheco's a really tough guy to finish, so I don't think going to decision was bad at all. He's got a really good chin and a solid enough ground game, and we saw Luna able to mix it up. So this guy showed that even at a young age, he's got that well-rounded skill set, or at least offensively. I thought it was really impressive. Showed he's got all the tools. This is a guy with serious potential and a lot of athleticism. The speed he's got in his combos is really good. So I went back and forth on this one a couple times. Just like I said, I can see Luna replicating that Dan Ige performance with his athleticism. But at this stage, I got to pick Bryce Mitchell. I just haven't seen enough from Luna to prove that he's on this level. Like, yeah, you can grapple with a guy in Angel Pacheco who's not a very high level grappler. Yeah, you can knock out Quang Lee, who maybe not the most durable guy. Neither Bryce Mitchell's not the most durable guy, but comparatively, he's only getting knocked out or finished by John Silva and Josh Emmett, not the other guys, you know. So I do think just the level that this is at kept me off the tempting underdog number on Santiago Luna. I'm going to take Bryce Mitchell by decision just because Luna's very young, which I think he's durable. He has the grappling game, so I don't think he's going to be easy to submit. But I do think Bryce Mitchell is going to be able to get his wrestling going, use that control time, use his veteran experience, and take a decision win here. Fun banger here at light heavyweight as Iwo Baraniewski takes on Junior Tafa. Start with Baraniewski, who comes in having knocked out his first two UFC opponents in the first round, coming off that quick one that made Austin Lane retire. And before that, he had the crazy banger with Ibo Aslan. And he also got a 20-second knockout over, believe it or not, Muhammad Ali on Contender Series. Not that Muhammad Ali. Still, 20-second knockout on Contender Series showed the power, and he's carried that streak into the UFC so far. Now, he does have a grappling base that I've seen a lot of people mention, a judo base that he used to get submissions in his first couple UFC wins. I'll touch on why I'm not overly excited about that in this matchup when I get into my pick. But the guy can grapple for sure. He's capable of it. On the other side, Junior Tafa, speaking of a guy who's not capable of grappling, uh, that's been his issue so far. I mean, if you get him on the ground, you're going to submit him. Tuco Togas got him to the ground, submitted him. Billy Elicana got him to the ground and submitted him. Kevin Christian wasn't able to in his last fight, so he got the first round knockout. But even before that, he landed a good leg kick that Tafa did not like. He has trouble with leg kicks too. This is a really limited fighter. Obviously, got big power in his hands. He's rocked a lot of guys just by catching them, but doesn't always go for the finish. You know, he folded Billy Elicana bad and just kind of let him up, circled back, and then, you know, went back to playing the low volume, big swing game at him, and eventually got taken down and submitted in that one. Rock Tuco Tuckus got taken down, submitted in that one. So, you know, Kevin Christian, he got the win, but Kevin Christian's incredibly low level. And, you know, saying that when I'm talking about Junior Tafa is something. So, yeah, I mean, the guy is just so one-dimensional, one big punch or nothing. And that makes him really hard to pick. I think he's kind of live in this fight, though. It's hard to bet against him at this number, and this is why Baraniewski's not in a parlay, or why I'm not taking Baraniewski by submission. I'm picking Baraniewski by first round knockout here, because I think he's going to go out there and get into another swinging contest like he did with Aslan, or just swing like he did with Austin Lane. And a lot of people have been quick to point to the grappling background saying, oh, Junior Tafa can't grapple. Well, we knew Ebo Aslan couldn't grapple either, and he just stood there swinging with him too. And even after getting clipped a couple times, and he got the win because he's obviously pretty durable and he hits really hard. So that makes him tough to beat in those big swinging matches. But I do think it makes Junior Tafa really live here. I think this is not a guy who has shown he's going to go out and think, oh, this guy is not as good a grappler as me. I'll just shoot a takedown and submit him early. There's a guy who's shown he's going to go out there and swing, leave his chin open to be clipped. And I think that's what's going to happen. That being said, I think he wins that fight more often than not against a guy like Junior Tafa. Tafa's been knocked out. I confuse the Tafa bros. They're basically the same thing. But it's not like they're the most durable of kickboxer either. It's not like they're the granite chin kickboxer. He has a terrible gas tank too. So if Baraniewski, just based on the fact that he's younger, we haven't seen Baraniewski go far into a fight. The mythical gas tank, the idea of his possible gas tank, I'd wager on that over Junior Tafa's, just because we know Tafa's is bad. We don't know what Baraniewski's is. So if it does extend, I also say it favors Baraniewski. So with that, yeah, I'm picking Baraniewski by first round knockout. A submission wouldn't shock me because, you know, if they fall over and he ends up on top of Tafa by accident, he's going to find a submission. But I do think he'll prefer to stand and bang with Tafa, which again makes Tafa live. Although you're not catching me falling for the Tafa big dog money again. I just can't. I can't do it. So give me Baraniewski first round knockout here. Catchweight bout here between two flyweights, and oh boy, biggest favorite on the card for a good reason here is Matt Schnell is back and he takes on Alessandro Costa. Matt Schnell 1-4 in his last 5, finished in all those losses by a multitude of knockouts, and more recently a couple submissions against Cody Durden and Joseph Morales. A notoriously bad chin, quick to tap. He's actually got some decent boxing and dangerous offensive jiu-jitsu himself, but it's very tough for him to implement it against any level of competition, as he keeps getting these top ranked guys because he pushed his way up into the rankings. So now, you know, his last matchup, even after that rough stretch, is Joseph Morales, the Ultimate Fighter winner. So guy's getting no favors here. And he's certainly not getting another one. As Alessandro Costa, you know, his record's not the flashiest in the UFC, but the guy is a really good, well-rounded, dangerous fighter. Good submission game, good striker, great performance against Kevin Borjas, easy win over Jimmy Flick, close competitive decision with top 10 guy Steve Erceg. The Alden Correa performance was bad, but you're not going to be 10 out of 10 every single night, but I think there's good reason to be impressed with Alessandro Costa and to believe that he can compete with even ranked competition, as he has. I mean, Steve Erceg went on to be ranked after having a close decision with him. So I have two notes here. The first note is pray for match now, and the second note is submission is a live outcome. I think a lot of people are going to think to match now getting knocked out and see Costa as a striker, and it's definitely possible. But if this, or not possible, it's definitely likely, it's the most likely outcome. But before you go and lay the minus 200 or steeper on match now to get knocked out, or Costa by KO, I should say, before you go lay that minus 200 or steeper, put that in your parlay, just know that Costa does have a dangerous submission game, and if he puts one in, we've seen match now tap in his last two losses. It's definitely a super live outcome. So the KO, although I do believe it's the most likely outcome, my pick is going to be Alessandro Costa by first round knockout. I do think the submission is also possible, so just something to consider before slapping that in your parlays this week. I gotta say it again, don't I? We got another weird booking, guys. Marcus McGhee comes in here after fighting Petr Yan, who went on to fight for the championship next. And now he takes on 1-1 in the UFC, coming off his first win, John Yannis. Okay. So McGhee, to start with, I mean, he's won 4 of his 5 in the UFC. He's looked really good. This is a well-rounded guy who keeps a good pace, strong striking, good boxing that he mixes up well, and a good grappling game that helped him get a submission in his first fight with the promotion. Got knockouts in his next over JP Bays and Gaston Bolaños. Then he took a big step up in competition, proved he could handle it against a tough kickboxer in Jonathan Martinez, where he survived a bit of a late scare there, but handled it and did well. And then against Petr Yan, took an early round off of him, which a lot of people will discredit and say, oh, well, Petr Yan fights close with everybody. Petr Yan fights close with the top. Petr Yan always fights the top. You still have to be a certain caliber to take a round off Petr Yan. So I thought it was a really good performance there. I still think McGhee, he's up there in age, but I get why they rushed him because he's up there in age. I don't get what they're doing with him here. I don't know. I think this is a top 15 caliber guy. Let him fight other ranked guys. Let him fight guys at least trying to get rankings. No disrespect to John Yannis, but he just hasn't proven he's that yet. He showed a clear weakness on the ground in his debut, getting subbed by Austin Bashi early. And then, yeah, you beat Jamie Siraj in the second fight. Jamie Siraj isn't that high level. So, I still think he has a lot to prove before he should be fighting the Marcus McGhees of the world. So no surprise with my pick here. I'm taking Marcus McGhee. I think if he keeps it on the feet, there is a slight chance Yannis can catch and hurt him. But he's the more well-rounded guy, the more proven guy, keeps a higher pace. I get why he's the clear favorite. I think this is a levels matchup. And with that, he is going to be leg 3 in the 3-leg parlay of the week. So we'll cap that off. It's Marcus McGhee, Farès Ziam, Brendan Allen. You can pair those 3 up for plus 130. So far we got that and Bonfim as the underdog as a couple of plus money plays for the week. Next, a good one at flyweight, good old-fashioned all-action fighters as Bruno Silva takes on Edgar Chairez here. Start with Bruno Silva. This is a guy who's competed with a really high level of competition, consistently fought against ranked guys or guys pushing the rankings. He's only 2-3 in his last 5, but when you look at the losses, a split decision against Charles Johnson that a lot of people gave to him, TKO late to the champ Josh Van, and a TKO late to arguably the top contender, a guy some people think would beat Josh Van. I might be included in those people. Manel Kape. And the 2 wins in there are not bad wins at all. Cody Durden, a solid veteran. That's a respectable win. Durden looked really good in that, but Bruno Silva was able to weather the storm and catch him. And then the Hyun Sung Park performance. Hyun Sung Park has lost a lot of hype since, but he was given that main event against Tatsuro Taira because he looked real good, real well-rounded, real dangerous. That's a strong upcoming fighter that Bruno Silva gave a good vet lesson to. On the other side, Edgar Chairez is a fun fighter. He's been in some good action fights, had a fun one at Noche with the champ Josh Van as well, where he hurt him with a crazy spinning back fist. Coming off a split decision win himself over Felipe Bunez, where he was able to take the last 2 rounds by getting the striking going after Bunez. Got the grappling going early. Before that, he was able to hurt and sub CJ Vergara. Got the submission over Daniel Lacerda in their weird saga before that. So this is a pretty well-rounded offensive fighter. He's dangerous, and he's very tough to finish. He has a couple submission losses on the regional scene, but this is a guy who fought Tatsuro Taira, didn't get tapped, fought Josh Van, and didn't get knocked out. So this is a very difficult guy to finish. With that, though, I am going to pick Bruno Silva here. I think he's the slightly more well-rounded guy. I think he can keep up and have moments of his own on the feet and mix in the takedowns, get some control time. I think it's unlikely he finds a submission against Chairez, but I do think control time can be the difference. Just the minute of control to end a round, or a big punch that sets Chairez wobbling back a little bit. I think those things could be the difference that lean it slightly towards Bruno Silva. So I'm gonna pick him. But my bet for this fight, which is going to be the prop play of the week, is the fight to go to decision. I think these guys are both very durable, very tough to finish, especially on the ground. These guys both have very good submission defense. Like I said, Bruno Silva's coming off his last couple wins. Well, his last win was by submission against a good grappler at Hyunsung Park. And Edgar Chairez went to the ground with Tatsuro Taira for a long time without getting tapped. And then on the feet, Edgar Chairez survived against Josh Van, and the only times we've seen Bruno Silva go down was brutal beatdowns against the absolute top level of the division. I just don't think Chairez can replicate the kind of volume and just the level of damage that Van and Cape were able to put on him. So I do think this one goes to decision more often than not. My pick is going to be Bruno Silva by decision, and the fight to go the distance is the prop play of the week. Oh, next women's bantamweights, Priscila Cachoeira and Chelsea Chandler square off. I'll be pretty quick with this one, both lower level. Cachoeira, at least a very fun fighter, kill or be killed. She goes hard for those first round knockouts. 2 of her last 3 ending in first round knockouts. Doesn't have the best ground game or cardio, but very powerful, hard hitting fighter for the division whose defense isn't top priority, which always makes it fun. Chelsea Chandler on the other side, basically the female worse Nate Diaz. Only UFC wins over Storley Ranko and Josiane Nunes. Norma Dumont made her run across the cage. Yana Santos beat her up, and Jocelyn Edwards got the first round knockout against her last time we saw her. Oh man, I kind of think this fight just comes down to, can Chelsea Chandler get grappling going at all? I'm not confident at that at a favorite price, so I'm going to pick Priscila Cachoeira by first round knockout. Not much confidence in this one, just leaning towards the dog finish. Save your money. Next, we'll go to the featherweights as Jordan Leavitt takes on Joanderson Brito in a matchup of, striker versus grappler matchup, a good clash of styles here. Start talking about Jordan Leavitt, a very successful move down to 145 with that dominant win over another grappler, Yadir Deval. He looked strong, looked very good control, was able to get damage off, put stamps on the rounds. It was his best performance in the UFC by far, especially when he had traditionally struggled against other strong grapplers, getting submitted by both Chase Hooper and Paddy Pimblett. Still, I have questions about his striking. He did get the first round knockout over Victor Martinez, although it doesn't look very good when he's pressured, doesn't threaten much offensively. The knockouts are, Victor Martinez and the slam against Matt Weinman. So I do think he's a very pure grappler who does not want to strike in this matchup. With Joanderson Brito, who is a pretty well-rounded finisher. I say well-rounded with a bit of hesitancy, and I'll get to why in a second. He's a very powerful striker. We saw him come into the UFC and get the first-round knockout over Andre Fili, immediately making a name for himself. damn near kicked a hole in Jack Shore's leg there down in Brazil to get the weird doctor stoppage finish there. And I say he's well-rounded because he does have a pretty threatening submission game. You know, if he jumps on the back, he'll go for the brute strength RNC, and he got that nice ninja choke on Jonathan Pierce, who got a bit reckless, constantly sticking his head in there. But the hole in the grappling did kind of get exposed by Pat Sabatini, who was able to control him without sticking his head in the dangerous spot and getting finished. So Sabatini looked dominant there over the course of 3 rounds just by controlling, although Sabatini is a very, very high-level grappler himself. He also did lose the weird split decision to William Gomi. Gomi just has a weird way of winning odd skate-around split decisions. And he had a good win over Isaac Thompson his last time out. I think Thompson's going to end up being a pretty good UFC fighter, pretty well-rounded guy. And Brito was able to get the win over him. Sometimes those weird matchups are going to pop up just because of injuries and stuff. So I think that's... I thought it was a fine performance. I thought it was a good look for Brito. Overall, as far as my pick goes for this one, I was really tempted to take Jordan Leavitt just because of the control grappling. I think if you're taking Leavitt, the decision prop is probably the way to go. I have a tough time seeing him submit Brito when Pat Sabatini couldn't. Brito's a very high-level black belt himself. The wrestling was the issue more than the jiu-jitsu. But I do get why Brito's favored. I just think he's far more dangerous. I have a hard time seeing him not put Leavitt in trouble over 3 rounds. We have seen Leavitt submitted himself. So it's more of a case closer to the Pierce fight, I think, than the Sabatini fight, where it's a matter of can Leavitt grapple for 3 rounds without getting himself caught in a submission, or if he can't get the grappling going at all, how long does he survive on the feet against Brito? So I understand why Brito's favored. I'm going to pick him by 2nd round submission. I think eventually he'll either grab a ninja choke or he'll get some grappling success going against Leavitt and catch him in a bad spot. Not too much confidence in this pick because, like I said, there is a clear path for the underdog in Leavitt to control him to a decision. Still kind of mauling, maybe might even end up on the Leavitt by decision prop. But we'll see. For now, my pick is Joanderson Brito by submission. All right, the last fight I'm going to talk about today, women's strawweight rematch from the regional days, as Ketlen Souza takes on Ariane Carnelossi. Now, Ketlen Souza comes in here, arguably having won 4 of her last 5. She's looked pretty good. She got that big upset over Yasmin Yawargi where she showed her power, the finishing instincts to jump on the neck there. Handled Marnik Manu's lower level and used her physicality to get the win over Bruno Silva. Also, had some good moments against Angela Hill. Angela Hill's still coming off the win. We know she's a high-level, tough out for anybody. I thought that was a good performance for the level that Souza's perceived at. Arguably beating Angela Hill, showing she had the more threatening power, having the bigger moments, landing the more impactful shots in that fight. Although the volume of Hill, very tough to match over 3. Carnelossi on the other side, kind of surprisingly 3-2 in her last 5. Although you look a little closer and she probably should have lost her last 3. I mean, probably not, because Pierre Rodriguez did deserve to get disqualified for headbutting. That's an egregious foul in my mind. I don't understand how you choose to headbutt someone in a fight. But yeah, also lost to Lupita Godinez and getting submitted by Talita Alencar. She's a powerful, you can see it. She looks powerful, hard hitting. Not the best grappling or output. That's been her issue here. And I think that's what this fight comes down to is Ketlen Souza, if you're not going to clearly beat her with output, I don't think you're going to beat her at this level. I think Souza does more on the output side. She has the better grappling upside if there is much. I think she has the bigger moments in this one. I don't think she's getting finished like she was in the regional scene. I think she's grown far more as a fighter than Carnelossi has since then. And I would be very surprised if Carnelossi was able to finish her again. So give me Ketlen Souza to just keep up the output, have some bigger moments, and win a decision here. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Quick recap of the bets that I went over. Underdog best bet of the week is in the main event, Gabriel Bonfim. The parlay of the week is a plus 130 parlay of Brendan Allen, Farès, Ziam, and Marcus McGhee. And the prop play of the week is Bruno Silva versus Edgar Chairez to go the distance at minus 105. We need 2 out of those 3 for profit. I think we can get there. As always, make sure you go like and subscribe, leave a comment. Always really helps me out. If you want to support, I'd really appreciate it. And go check me out on socials at Doug Las Vegas Bets on both Twitter and Instagram. Very active on there. I post some other plays that I might not include on here, so make sure you go check it out. One final time, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the fights this weekend.